Hi guys, welcome back to the second episode of Let's Talk by Mindspa. My name is Vandana Sudhir. If you have any suggestions, inquiries, or just want to have a chat, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at www.mindspa.org.in. Now, if there is one thing everyone can relate to, it is the pressure to succeed in life. But in India, I think this pressure is far greater than many other places. Every hour, one student dies by suicide, and this trend has been on the rise over the last few years. Suicides are a preventable public health problem, and it is especially a concern in this case because it is the second leading cause of death amongst young adults in India. And this holds a mirror up against our education system and the pressure we as a society put on a child to achieve the standard of academic excellence in a very unfair system. And that is what we shall talk about today. I remember this lecture from my bachelor's degree where my professor made this very interesting point. She said there are two types of coaching given to people while learning to play a sport. Let's say, for example, badminton. Now, one method is called a winner's game, a strategy used by professional players where they are trained for hours to map out their strengths and weaknesses until they finally have to master their own power move. And the other strategy is called the loser's game, used by non-professional players where the focus is to just keep the shuttlecock in play, like rally. So, while the winner's game focuses on playing that trick shot you took years to master and outsmart your opponent, the loser's game is more risk-averse, as we just kind of stick to the manual sheet. And this made me realize that the education system in India has conditioned us for decades now to play the loser's game. Unthinking, memory-driven learning, or rote learning, is clearly one of the biggest problems in Indian school education. Our system is built for people that can efficiently memorize large chunks of information, regardless of whether or not they understand it, almost giving up no space for a child to be creative or even develop their own personality. Success shouldn't just be limited to marks. It is eating away the creativity of the minds of our children, making them cramming machines, disturbing their emotional quotients, while parents force children to get into the best institutes for financial security. And in the end, they're forced to study and get into a profession they probably don't even have an aptitude for. And this is true. Medicine and engineering remain the two most popular choices, yet less than 25% of these graduates are employable. Because they just don't know how to apply what they spent years by hearting. And even then, if not, there aren't too many alternative courses for children to follow. So clearly something is not working. Pressure to perform well academically has such a large influence, it almost becomes a family symbol of social status and even influences future marriage prospects here. So the worst thing in all this is that children most often don't even get to have a voice in this, despite them being the biggest stakeholders. I mean, I get it. We learn from our parents, and our parents' lives were based on pressure and sacrifice, and the focus was always on survival rather than happiness. But through their life experiences, they kind of unknowingly pass this mentality down to us. Safety became the primal goal. But that shouldn't be it, right? We cannot make decisions just because they are more safe. Rather, the goal should be to unlock a unique set of potential that is inherent in each person, and for this change, we need to remove this method of rote learning from our system. Rote learning was not part of the Indian traditional education system. The idea was actually introduced to us during the British period to fulfill their interests. So at the time, there was basically a rapid increase of factories being built all over Europe, and there was an urgent need of factory workers. So the British colonizers built this system in order to produce factory workers that trained individuals to be compliant and follow orders. The intention wasn't to ever place Indians to work in the high posts. Therefore, rote learning sets us up from the start to become a nation of followers rather than leaders. The main thing about rote learning is that it is based on this one-way broadcast of information, where teachers tell the students what to write in their notebooks. Formulas are asked to memorize. Copying pages and pages of experiment in the record books is how majority of the classrooms still function in India. And not just in classrooms, it is very much instilled in our culture. We have a one-way adult-child communication, and that is the norm of our society. Adults keep instructing and repeating information to children, and there is no opportunity presented to them where they are allowed to question, analyze, or critique it in any way. And this stunts any opportunity for a healthy discussion to take place. And if you do, it's often labeled as disobedient or arrogant. What I intend to do with this podcast is to set some new standards now. We need to start updating a few things that we just have been blindly following in the name of culture that doesn't seem to fit in society anymore. And now everyone relax. I'm not going to say anything outrageous. This is the second episode, so I'm going to start easy. So firstly, to relieve some pressure for children, I think we just need to start encouraging a two-way communication system in our homes as well as in schools. Parents and children should stop seeking pride when children are overly subservient. Rather, encourage discussions, normalize heart-to-heart conversations, talk about life milestones, goal settings, and encourage curiosity, even when those questions are not age-appropriate. Secondly, understand that being parents doesn't give the right to make decisions on your child's behalf. Rather, be the parent your child approaches to discuss before making any decisions. And that is what is most important. Within the Indian family structure, children are raised with the understanding that their parents knows what's best for them. And I mean, we've all heard this line. Parents taking decisions for us becomes very normalized. In fact, it's almost a psychological safety net. Even today, for me, it makes me feel more secure. And honestly, I know there are times we all need that. But the reality is that while our parents always want the best, they don't know best. This also comes from their own experience as parents, because some of the major life decisions for them were based on what their parents told them to do. But how long will we as a society accept this long tradition of always being kids for our parents is healthy? So it's time to put a stop to that. Finally, it is to value all talents equally. Every child is different. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. That's a famous quote, and I think it is totally relevant with this topic. So school education should be personalized, depending on what students' learning style, and not measure everyone's talent using the same set of metrics that don't take into account individual strengths and weaknesses. Encourage them. It is time we learn the difference between a well-filled and a well-formed mind. I think the main focus or the bigger picture here is that we need to not just focus on career building. We need to rather focus on developing essential life skills and building a good moral compass that will enable the young minds to learn to adapt and deal with the demands and challenges of life effectively. For any further inquiries, if you guys want to reach out to us, you can always message us at www.mindspa.org.in.